Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for joining me today. I say afternoon, wherever you are in the world, it might be a different time, but it's 5 p.m. here in the UK. This is Stepping Up from TAtech. Stepping Up is a series of shows where we look to dig a little bit deeper into organizations, have a peek behind the curtain, find out what's going on behind the scenes, and get a better understanding of what they're about in a more three-dimensional way. So my guests that we've had over the past year have been many and varied, all members of TAtech and all companies who are pushing the boundaries in terms of not only what their technology can do, but how that ripples through the marketplace and the employment workplace. Because as organizations themselves developing technology that's used in the sourcing, the identifying, the tracking down and hiring of the best candidates, then it's often the pressure is on them. I say pressure. The focus is on them to demonstrate that they know how to build a good culture and how to influence the clients and companies that they are in contact with as well. So with that, I'm going to invite my very good friend, Adam Godson, to the screen. Adam, good afternoon. How the devil are you?
Hi, Stephen. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it and look forward to a great conversation.
Fantastic. It's good to see you. So for the uninitiated, and shame on them, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and Paradox that most people wouldn't know off the cuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I'm a longtime talent acquisition technology veteran. So I spent 9 years at CLO and global RPO doing technology stacks previously, and started my career as a recruiter, hiring folks to work on a front line in manufacturing. And it's all I've ever done and all I really want to do. So it's the problem I think about waking up in the morning and going to bed at night. And so I'm an industry guy in that way. And Paradox is all about conversational AI for talent acquisition. And so, and what we can dig into what that means and what we do, but essentially we help companies hire through the use of technology.
Mm-hmm. So it's all about communication. So what inspired initially the creation of Paradox in the first place? What was the problem that Paradox was looking to solve?
Yeah, really, I think a couple of important things about the origin story. So one of those I think is important that Paradox is founded by Aaron Matus and is really rooted in talent acquisition professionals and people that come from industry. And so Madeline Lorano would call them two guys in skinny jeans, that folks that sometimes had a technology company, they sold it and they said, what problem could we solve next? And they said, oh, hiring was hard. Let's make a hiring company. And that's not our story. Our story is longtime industry veterans that have sat in the seat, have done the job, and then said, how can we now apply technology to be better? And that lends a lot to our focus on the candidates and people that actually do the job. And so really coming up with conversational AI and how can we use new technology and what we think is a seismic technological change in the way that people interact, and how can that work for talent acquisition and help people make deeper connections. So the goal is not to automate all of the work. That is not our goal. The paradox for which we're named actually is that we help people spend more time with people, not software. And so it's rooted in that belief that the connection should be very human. And the paradox is that we can spend technology to actually make it more human.
Yeah. It's sometimes, going back to a paradox, the pitch of many technology companies is that our technology will free up time so that you can do more of the human touch stuff. But often in practice, what happens is that frontline recruiters, their time is freed up, so they then do more of those things. They're not doing more human touch. They're just taking on more vacancies. They're handling more of a workload. And it is vital that when you've got a technology that's going to allow you to do those things, to keep your discipline and do those very human tasks.
Yeah, and honestly, one of the early light bulb moments was walking into a room full of recruiters that were working in a desk and having the room be silent. Every single person just clicking away in a system to click on things, and having that, and looking at this room being like, this isn't what recruiting is supposed to be about.
Yeah,
We'd become slaves to our software, and we're clicking on things. Recruiting is about literally convincing someone about why they should join an organization. Like that
yeah,
is recruiting.
yeah,
And I think technology has been a great boon for this industry, but in some ways has become too much of the story. Whereas we need to get back to those personal connections, and let's
yeah.
automate some of that boring stuff.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So the art of persuasion is how I often talk about recruitment, where a frontline recruiter will convince a candidate to consider something they wouldn't have considered before, or
Right.
a candidate in interview, whether they should be offered a job, or indeed whether they should be getting a higher offer if the candidate's the one doing the persuading. But those instances where one person is negotiating with another and trying to make something happen that wouldn't have otherwise happened is at the core of recruitment. And as you say, those boring tasks. So the platform you've got called Olivia. Tell us about in practice how Olivia works and how it directly benefits recruiters and candidates alike.
Yeah. No, Olivia is conversational AI, and by the way, it can be and often is renamed by a client company. So if you want
Yeah.
to rename it around after the founder or an inanimate object, that
Oh,
about half our clients do that as well.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and so can work on top of an existing ATS. We work great with Workday and SuccessFactors, or
mm,
can work as a standalone solution, oftentimes in volume hiring type of markets. But in either scenario, really creates this conversational assistant that helps candidates apply to the role, find the right role,
yeah,
remind them of their interview, schedule the interview, push them to complete the offer, all the way through onboarding paperwork. So all the things that they need to complete, and then wish you well on your first day. So really being that end-to-end assistant, focused on messaging, SMS and WhatsApp, and those modern methods of communication to push people to help them get work done.
yeah,
And the net result of that is being able to hire people faster with a higher quality of satisfaction from candidates and recruiters.
yeah, yeah. I sometimes liken it to having an assistant that's sitting alongside you, but is keeping you to task. When you've finished the call with someone, reminding you to do the follow up, or reminding you to schedule the thing, or all of the little tasks that if you were left to your own devices as a recruiter, and certainly as I was, you say, "Oh, I'll get to that later," but the AI is prompting for that to happen and making it possible in the most efficient way possible. So things don't
Yeah,
get
absolutely.
left to one side.
Yeah, absolutely. Like both doing both those things. Like one of those is automating the tasks that can be automated,
Yeah,
but then also helping remind and drive to completion for the things that shouldn't be automated, and
yeah,
helping make good design decisions about what. But things like scheduling interviews, for example. So
mm,
being able to execute that work. So Olivia, schedule this interview for me, and being able
yeah,
to do all the fancy triangulation of what the interview should be with all the different people and locations and Zoom
yeah,
meetings and room bookings and all those things, and execute that task to perfection, and
yeah,
then reschedule it when something changes, and taking that work entirely off the plate of the recruiter.
yeah,
But then reminding some things like convincing people to join and negotiating offers. And so being able to both do the work and drive the work is the task at
yeah,
hand.
yeah. Those kinds of things really do soak up your day if you're left to do them yourself, and especially when schedules change, as they always do.
Right.
Then having a platform that can negotiate all of those different elements, especially when you've got multiple people in interviews and multiple interviews, and you're asking for a candidate to go through assessment tasks and video interviews and so on, then that being taken off your plate, then you can have more of an overview over what you're doing and the multiple projects that you're working on.
Absolutely. It also just didn't drive self-actualization on either part.
Yeah,
I don't know a single recruiter that got into the business to say, I love scheduling interviews and that's what I want to do with my life. It's a necessary task. But what they
yeah,
really love is the convincing people to join part, and the building relationships part. So let's let
yeah,
people do that. And on the candidate end, I think you got to get it right. But
yeah,
they don't join the organization because the interview scheduling process was,
yeah.
the coordination was done by a human rather than someone else. They just want it to be right and have it be done quickly.
Yeah. So where does Olivia, or whatever it's been renamed to be? I guess that's a bit like Alexa. You can change it to something else. Actually, I shouldn't say that out loud. I've got one behind me.
Yeah, right. Still...
But if anyone's watching this, I apologize for setting off your AI. But where in the process does Olivia typically begin and end? What's the start and stop points?
Yeah, it depends a lot on the company about what role that company is looking to have Olivia do. There are many of our clients, particularly in the volume space. So think about restaurants, retailers, where Olivia is going end to end. So from the moment there's an introduction. So when I was a teenager looking at a fast food restaurant, they'd hand a paper application, and now they point to the wall and say, text Olivia. And Olivia goes all the way from sort of that capture of interest place, all the way to the screening questions, scheduling the interview, and then all the way through the process to onboarding and the first day to go through. There are other organizations that have a more discrete set of challenges that they're looking to do. So interview scheduling is a really good one of those where that can be a real pain point. And so thinking about how to do this well through automation in 150 countries in all the languages, but can I plug it into Workday or SuccessFactors to be able to really solve that sort of discrete challenge? That's possible too. So it depends a lot on the design and what companies want to have accomplished.
Yeah. Is there a particular demographic for whom Olivia is best suited, whether it be industries or blue collar workers or board level positions? Where does it most typically seen?
Yeah, but most typically we see sort of end to end success in the volume space, and so folks that are typically going to work frontline service roles and really that demographic. Partially because the thing that's most important to that group is speed. So messaging is important, doing things by SMS and WhatsApp, and then getting that driven, and they are more likely to do that than email. But we also see tremendous success even in the professional ranks at many parts of the process. Interview scheduling being a good example where we see incredibly high satisfaction for complex interviews, high level of automation, but eventually the human touch is definitely something that is desired as you get higher in that rank.
So are you able to discern from candidate behaviors how well they're either enjoying or appreciating the technology that they're interacting with, whether it be speed of reply or the in-depth level of the questions, and secondly, are you able to learn more about the individuals from their regular patterns of behavior in a particular industry or for a particular company?
Yeah, we do, and that's a really important part of our learning is where are we having success and where can we make improvements. So of course we're looking at engagement levels, how many questions do people ask, are the things that are unclear. And then we also do both implicit and explicit ratings. So many of our clients will have an explicit rating that is, tell me about your interview process. Did you enjoy the interview scheduling process? And be able to do that quickly, because most of it's SMS or WhatsApp. So thumbs up, thumbs down, 5-star rating, those kinds of things in one question. But then we also see a lot of things in our conversations. So for example, last year, 5.1 million people told Olivia, thank you. And there's no reason you would say thank you to something that's not real. But they had, but we take that as a measure of conversational quality, that in a subconscious way that people are understanding that as an interaction, and that they do end the conversation with a thank you. So lots of different metrics about both our conversation quality and the process and outcome quality that we measure.
You're speaking to someone here who says thank you when an ATM gives me money.
Well, that is something to thank, right? It's like a slot machine. You win every time.
It feels like I've won, because believe me, there are times when I've asked for cash and it said no chance. But also in using ChatGPT, I've heard that if you say please and thanks, then you get a better response. But we'll not dig into that too much. But going back to the use and practice of Olivia. We know that when candidates are asked, what do you want? then, aside from a lot of people saying, well, what I want is feedback, set that to one side for now. But most of what candidates want is to know where they stand in the process. So if they're looking to make an initial application, or if they're looking to follow that up and find out, between starting and either getting a no or getting a yes, what's happening in between. Is Olivia able to maintain that ongoing correspondence with an individual so that they feel engaged?
Yes, that is an important part of candidate experience, being able to answer the question, and of course knowing what the top questions are. That's one of them. What's the status of my application? What's happening? So being able to connect with the applicant tracking system, and then take an answer that the applicant tracking system will have in a status, and then communicate that as the company desires, to say, this is what we want to tell candidates are happening in this stage. Oftentimes, applicant tracking systems have some esoteric names that you might have in that, but being able to then translate that to something a candidate understands and give them the proper expectations. That continues to be an area, I think, of improvement for the process of companies around the world, is better communicating to candidates what those processes are and where they can, how they can expect that, and then doing it proactively in real time.
Yeah, and as you say, that can be on SMS and WhatsApp. Are there other platforms that your messages are going out through, and are you able to pin down, well, this candidate prefers to, or is more responsive to this platform over another?
Yeah, well, of course, email, and then widget on career sites. So that's probably the most common place people ask questions, is on a career site, seeing the widget, and then being able to carry on via messaging. And so we do detect preferences, but also we listen to the explicit desires of candidates. So typically in a conversation at some point, we'll ask, how do you want us to communicate with you? And then we'll take that under advisement.
Are you able to, in a country in the US where there are, many languages being spoken, obviously English and Spanish being the main ones, but are you able to tell if someone is speaking English as a second language, and then be able to say, well, would you prefer to converse in Spanish or another language?
Yeah, so we use language detection techniques, and so of course we'll look at web browser as well, sort of language settings, geolocation, but then also language detection is part of our platform, where if someone says a phrase that might be detected as another language, we'll simply ask, like, oh, actually, did you want to have this conversation in French? And so then we can carry on in any number of languages, and different dialects as well.
That's fantastic. Whenever I've been involved with technology companies, one of the most fruitful ways of learning about how we can develop the product is from the novel ways that customers are using the product, often in ways that wasn't designed for. Have you got any examples of instances where Olivia is being used that weren't initially planned for, but actually are kind of genius?
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the things that I think is has grown from that is our ratings and feedback product, where we certainly got lots of folks that were measuring different parts of the process in ways that maybe we hadn't anticipated. So measuring, how are folks doing, after 7 days of work? How are folks doing at different points in the process? So I think that's one where we made that for explicit measurement at points in the process, but seeing the types of questions people ask, different inventive ways that people use that has been one. I think hiring events is another. There are, I think, millions of different ways that companies execute hiring events, and that's one where nailing some of the core use cases was important at the beginning, but then being able to grow that product substantially based on the many creative ways that our clients execute hiring events.
Yeah. So when you're learning about candidates who are applying for a certain type of job, might be a truck driver job for company X, and you've got another group of candidates that are applying for retail jobs with company Y. Are each of those companies building an independent stack of learned knowledge on the behaviors of the candidates who are typically applying to them, or is it in a pool of learned knowledge across all clients?
Yeah, there's actually some of each. So the natural language part is across many clients. So to understand all the ways that people might ask a question in that. But there's also part of that that's individual to the company, because the same acronym applied to trucking may mean something very different in insurance. And so it actually does benefit both, where and we have separate sort of architecture to learn those things. But the great corpus of sort of how people interact in recruiting contexts is across the entire spectrum, so we can get the benefits of those learning for our natural language and those pieces. But then it also applies individually to companies. Each industry has their own specific things that they're talking about and working on.
Yeah, yeah. So as an organization, you've grown to as a technology company a pretty chunky size in this industry. How would you sum up if someone was asking, and I'm going to ask now, if someone was asking how do you describe your company culture? It's obviously different or more difficult to do as you grow and maintain a handle on that. How would you describe your company culture and your values?
Yeah, our company culture is really important. We are very much a values-driven company and a values-driven organization. So we load up pretty heavily on that in our new hire orientation as we bring people on, and that is really everything for us. But we've got very specific company values, things like play for the front of the jersey, not the back, which is a sports reference, of course, but means
that's what that means.
Yeah, it's play for the team name on the front, not the individual name on the back.
Oh, okay.
So sort of that team-centered culture. A second of those is measure client success in hugs. And so reflecting a depth of our client interaction that we want to be not just business associates, but folks that truly care. And we want our clients to feel that we care deeply about their satisfaction and what they're trying to accomplish and how to make them successful.
Yeah.
And others be better tomorrow than we are today. So that focus on continuous improvement, getting better, learning. And then the last is have a high give a damn. And so really to care deeply about our clients beyond what maybe it says in a contract or what someone might think we should do, but to really care and to make that really deep. So very values driven in that respect.
So those are, it would be glib to say, well, those are obvious values to have, but actually those are tough values to live up to, because it's easier to sometimes not give a damn. It's easier to finish work at 5 and that's me done for the day, and not to learn and know about your clients and what their pain points are, what their needs are. So it's difficult to live up to those, but I can see the real value in being able to do so. How do you maintain a course on that?
Yeah, for us, it's really driving the culture where those things are the expectation, and that we hold each other accountable to those standards. And so a lot of time and effort is spent on culture, and we are trying to be sure our clients feel that from us, that it feels different to work with us than it does other companies that they may have worked with in the past. And so it is all about how we structure our systems, what are the things we reinforce, and then driving culture, and then checking in to be sure that those things are happening.
What are the typical elements of feedback that you get from new starts in the company who realize, oh, this place is quite different?
Yeah, it's literally that, where it's so we start with a bang in our first week, where we press really hard on values, and almost everyone that joins says, oh, this is different. And then about 3 months in, we oftentimes see sort of the touch bases where people have the reaction where they're like, oh, like they really meant it. This isn't values that are on the wall. These are values that people live every day, and that it's a real part of the fabric and the culture, not just sort of window dressing.
Yeah. So clearly you take that seriously within your own organization as an employer, but as an employer where you're showing by example to your clients. Is it always the case that you're able to influence your clients for the better from a culture's point of view? Because communication is at the core of Paradox and Olivia. It's right. Better communication. It's people knowing each other better. It's people having those closer connections. So are you able to influence clients in a positive way?
That's the design, right? And that's how we try to make it. How to make it work, and that's how those things work together. To say the word always, no, not always, but normally, and as those things work, one of the important things about being an organization that's trying to push our clients forward is they need to trust us as
Yeah.
well. And so there are many times where clients will ask us to do something that is maybe an old way of doing something, or rooted in something that was true in a previous generation of technology.
Yeah.
And so we have to have the trust to be able to push our clients forward to say, you could do that, but we recommend this, and
Yeah.
this is a way that you can maximize what you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
And if they know you, if they trust you, and if you're looking out for their best interests, not yours,
Yeah.
then that can really work. And so that's why I think the culture is so important in an organization that's trying to push our clients further to the edge and not do yesterday's technology, but do tomorrow's, because they have to trust us to be able to do that.
So consulting with clients is a key part of the relationship.
There really is nothing more important than that, to be honest, is those relationships are absolutely critical.
Yeah, yeah, but being able to lead in the right direction where you might disagree on something, and be looking to encourage them to do better by trying something new.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, almost no one in our client base has experience with conversational AI software.
Yeah.
And so they're looking at us to what should we do, and how should we execute that? And we've got to be able to articulate that and build trust that they're going to throw the anchor forward and say, and go to their own organization and say, hey, we need to push boundaries here, and it takes a tremendous amount of trust to have them do that.
So on that, what advice do you find yourself often giving to HR and TA professionals that they might have previously balked at or held off on, that maybe they weren't expecting?
Yeah, so I mean, right now is a good example about generative AI in the workplace. And so I think that's the one that is coming of age now, where today, in the past, like all responses sort of approved by a legal department, and there's a future where that's probably not going to be the case. And so it's going to be, how do we then build trust in, say, this is technology that has been tested and proven, and showing the downsides of what does a hallucination look like, what is prompt injection. So doing the education at the same time of understanding, of helping them understand what it means for their organizations. That's the type of thing that we have to be able to coach our clients on, and build that trust in.
Some people, when they look at technology, they'll accept it as magic, it just magically does the right things. And other people, they need to understand what is going on under the hood. They need to have a handle on that. For those people who want to understand, who don't trust it until they understand, what path do you take them on to get a handle on Paradox?
Yeah, really, it's about for us, education of those clients, to be able to help them understand how is a machine thinking about this, and how is that process from the input to the classification to the output. And so you're 100% right that there are multiple personas. Some that are tell me what goes in the beginning and what comes out the end. Black box is fine in the middle, and others that want very clear understanding of that in the middle. So I think it's just understanding what persona that individual is, and then what depth of explanation to help explain to them what's happening, and how they can influence it.
Yeah. So can you give me an idea? You're also Chief Product Officer. What's coming down the line with Paradox that that people might not be expecting, or is going to take the next big step for the organization?
Sure. Quite a few different things. I think one of those is more use of generative AI, as we've talked about. So we've been using that in the background for some time, and so but I think there's a clear moment where the interface change that we've been talking about for many years is starting to happen. So ChatGPT is 1 million users in 5 days has captured the consciousness. But the underlying technology has existed for a few years. So GPT-3 existed for multiple years. But what changed last year was the interface, and so now you could use it as chat. And so I think what that's given is an awareness of conversational AI as the user interface of the future. And so continuing to drive forward on different talent acquisition tasks with that interface is something that we believe is going to happen for a long time. And now that moment is here, continuing to push out new functionality that has lots of different uses as Olivia and friends as an AI assistant.
Yeah, yeah. I remember we had an event in Boston. Was it Boston or was it in Chicago last year?
Chicago, yeah, we're in Chicago.
That was it. And we spoke a lot about the ethics of AI and people's concerns over what's going to come of this. There's obviously a responsibility for organizations like yours, not only to develop the product ethically, but to kind of show your work, to demonstrate that people can trust what you're doing, and that their concerns are also your concerns. How are you able to demonstrate that in your everyday work?
Yeah, I think a few things that are really important are explainability, and then communication and education. And so for us, it's being sure that our folks can understand how our product works and what exactly it's doing. So and then thinking about how we communicate that and educate our clients on that. And I think the other is really understanding of what we want our product to do. If I really break down talent acquisition, it's really about three things.
Yeah.
It's about making decisions about people, whether that's a resume review or after an interview. Yeah. It's about communication, so lots of communication in the process of recruitment, and then it's a whole bunch of boring stuff, a whole bunch of offer letters and interview scheduling and all the things that happen. Yeah. And for us, we've decided we really want to do this, the second and third. We want to focus a lot on communication throughout the process, and we want to focus on automating boring stuff. But decisions should be made by people, and a lot of other folks are spending a lot of time trying to make decisions for companies using automation, whether that's through text analysis or facial recognition or other things. And for us, we think there's a lot to do in enabling humans to make decisions rather than trying to make those decisions as well. So the choices we make about what our product does matter a lot there too.
Yeah, yeah. I often, and in fact, you can tell me if I'm doing this wrong. I often, when I'm asked about AI in this sort of scenario, I'll liken it to being able to delegate work to someone else. And I'm terrible at delegating, which is why I ask so many questions about AI. But it's delegating work to someone else that you can trust them to get on with, whilst you do the thing that you're good at, which is decision making and persuading. So the ability to delegate and having a platform that can insert itself at the key points where delegation is called for is crucial. Am I describing it in the right or the wrong way?
Nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. That's exactly it. Philosophically, exact same page.
Thank goodness for that. I would have looked silly otherwise. Adam, I've just noticed the time. We've gone a little bit over. Thank you very much for your time. That's been really educational and always a pleasure. Thanks very much for joining me this afternoon, and I'll really look forward to seeing. Are you going to be in Austin yourself? I think you are. Of course you are.
Yeah, I think so. So I look forward to seeing you there, and great conversation. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks everyone who's joined us today. I hope you'll join us again on Wednesday this week. Wednesday this week, I have another guest, Madhu from, I really should have this right in front of me. I want to get it correct because I am terrible at pronouncing names. Madhu Murugu from Leoforce. Aria is their platform. So I look forward to seeing you then. And in the meantime, thank you very much for joining me today. Thank you. Thanks. Bye. Bye, Adam.
Bye all. See you.